Welcome to Market Survival, from price taker to market dominator. Have you ever wondered why some firms have almost no control over the market price, while others have much more power to influence prices and market decisions? In this course, we are going to explore how firms operate under different market structures. We will begin with firms that have very little market power, which is the price takers, and gradually move towards firms with greater pricing power and market control. So, are you ready to begin your market survival journey? Let's start by understanding some basic concepts about the market. Before we explore the different types of market structures, we need to understand several important concepts. In this introductory section, we will look at what we mean by a firm, an industry, and a market. We will also examine the objectives of a firm and, most importantly, how a firm determines the level of output that will maximize its profit. These basic concepts will help us understand the different market structures in the following lessons. Let's begin! Before we start, let's look at what you should be able to do by the end of this lesson. First, you should be able to define the concepts of a firm, an industry, and a market. These three terms may sound similar, but they actually describe different parts of economic activity. Next, you should be able to explain the main objectives of a firm, which are profit maximization and loss minimization. In other words, firms want to earn as much profit as possible, or when this is not possible, keep their losses as low as possible. You should also be able to explain the aggregate method and the marginal method used to determine a firm's equilibrium. Don't worry if these terms are new to you. We will go through both methods step by step. Finally, you should be able to determine the profit maximizing output, equilibrium price and quantity, and profit or loss using both approaches. So, by the end of this lesson, you should not only understand the concepts, you should also be able to apply them. Let's begin with our first concept, which is the firm. So, what exactly is a firm? A firm is an institution that brings together the factors of production in order to produce goods. Look at the illustration. A firm combines resources such as land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. For example, imagine a cafe. The building and location represent land. The employees provide labor. Equipments such as coffee machines represents capital, and the entrepreneur organizes all these resources. When these factors are brought together to produce goods, we have a firm. Remember this simple idea: one business organization equals one firm. Now, what happens when we have many similar firms? That brings us to the concept of an industry. Alright, an industry is a group of firms that produce and sell similar goods in the same market. Look at the example on the slide. We have several different cafes such as Brew & Co, Daily Cup, Urban Beans, Cafe Lumiere, and The Roastery. Each cafe is an individual firm, but when we group all these firms together because they provide similar products, they became part of the cafe industry. So here is an easy way to remember it. One business is a firm. Many similar firms make an industry. Now that we understand firms and industries, let's look at where buyers and sellers interact, which is the market. Now, what is a market? A market is a place where buyers and sellers meet to carry out business transactions. Look at the picture on the slide. We can see many sellers offering their products and many buyers making purchasing decisions. So, a market involves interaction between two important groups, which are the buyers and the sellers. The buyers want to purchase goods while sellers want to sell them. When they interact, buying, selling, and trading take place. So remember, a firm produces. An industry consists of similar firms, and a market brings buyers and sellers together. Now, why do firms participate in the market? Let's look at their objectives. Generally, firms have two important objectives. The first objective is to maximize profit. A firm wants to find the level of production that gives it the highest possible profit. But does every firm always make a profit? Not necessarily. Sometimes market conditions are difficult and a firm may experience losses. In that situation, the second objective becomes important, which is to minimize loss. So, remember these two objectives. When profit is possible, the firm tries to maximize profit. When losses cannot be avoided, the firm tries to minimize its loss. The next question is, how does a firm know which level of output gives the maximum profit? Well, there are two methods. The two methods include aggregate method and marginal method. Under the aggregate method, we compare total revenue or TR with total cost or TC. Total revenue represents the income generated from sales, while total cost represents the firm's production cost. The second approach is marginal method. Here, instead of comparing totals, we compare marginal revenue or MR with marginal cost or MC. Don't worry about remembering everything immediately. Let's look at each method separately, beginning with the aggregate method. Just like how I mentioned earlier, the aggregate method compares total revenue and total cost. The idea is actually quite simple. Profit is the difference between total revenue and total cost. So we can express it as profit equals total revenue minus total cost. The firm achieves maximum profit when the difference between total revenue and total cost is the largest. So our job is to compare the TR and TC at different quantities and identify where this difference reaches its maximum. To understand this easier, let's look at a numerical example. Here, we have information on total revenue, total cost, price, quantity, and profit or loss. Using the aggregate method, our main focus is the profit or loss column. Remember, profit is calculated by taking total revenue minus total cost. Let's examine the values. At 0 output, the firm makes a loss of RM4. At 1 unit, the loss becomes RM1. When output increases to 2 units, the firm begins making a profit of RM1. The profit then increases to RM2, followed by RM3. Now, let's see what happens at 5 units. Here, we have a profit of RM4. Look carefully at the profit column. RM4 is the highest profit in the table. When the firm increases production to 6 units, profit falls again to RM3. Therefore, RM4 is the maximum profit. So, this is the point where the firm achieves its maximum profit. The profit maximizing output is therefore associated with this row. Now, let's focus on the complete row. At this point, the quantity is 5 units, total cost is RM21, and total revenue is RM25. And notice, RM25 minus RM21 gives us our maximum profit of RM4. Now, we can identify the firm's equilibrium. Since maximum profit occurs when the firm produces 5 units, the equilibrium quantity is 5 units. The corresponding price is RM5. Therefore, equilibrium quantity equals to 5 units, equilibrium price equals to RM5, and maximum profit equals to RM4. That is how we determine profit maximization using the aggregate method. Now, let's compare with the second method. As for the marginal method, instead of comparing total revenue and total cost, we compare marginal revenue with marginal cost. Marginal revenue refers to the additional revenue obtained from producing and selling an additional unit. Marginal cost refers to the additional cost of producing an additional unit. Under this approach, the firm reaches its profit maximizing equilibrium when marginal revenue equals marginal cost, or more simply, MR equals to MC. Keep this rule in mind because it is extremely important throughout our discussion of market structures. Now, let's apply it to an example. Here we have another table. This time, in addition to quantity, price, total revenue, and total cost, we also have average revenue, marginal revenue, and marginal cost. For the marginal method, our main focus is on the final 2 columns, which are marginal revenue and marginal cost. We are looking for the output where MR equals MC. Let's compare them. At 1 unit, MR is RM5 while MC is RM2. At 2 units, MR is RM5 and MC is RM3. At 3 units, MR is RM5 while MC is RM4. At 4 units, MR remains RM5 while MC is RM3. Now, look at what happens at the 5 units. Here, marginal revenue is RM5 and marginal cost is also RM5. So, we have reached the important condition MR equals MC. This tells us that the firm reaches its profit maximizing equilibrium at this point. So again, our key rule is maximum profit occurs when MR equals MC. Now, look across the entire row. The quantity associated with MR equals MC is 5 units. Therefore, this is the firm's equilibrium output. At this output, the equilibrium quantity is 5 units and the corresponding equilibrium price is Rm5. So using the marginal method, we obtain the same equilibrium. Price equals Rm5 and quantity equals 5 units. Notice that the aggregate method and the marginal method are different ways of identifying the firm's profit maximizing equilibrium. This idea will become very important when we study the different market structures. Now that we have understood the basic concepts of a firm, industry, market, and profit maximization, we are ready to move on to the main part of this course. There are 4 market structures that we will examine, which include perfect competition, monopolistic competition, oligopoly, and monopoly. Each represents a different market environment faced by firms. As we move through the course, we will see how firms behave differently under each structure and how they make decisions about price, output, and profit. And our first market structure will be perfect competition. Great job! You have completed the introductory section. You now have the basic tools that we need before exploring individual market structures. Remember the 2 important profit maximization approaches. With the aggregate method, we compare total revenue and total cost. With the marginal method, we look for the point where MR equals MC. In part 2, we will begin our market survival journey with perfect competition, where firms operate as price takers. So, I'll see you in part 2. Perfect competition. Let's find out what it really means to be a price taker.